Hi, I'm not going to script this video. I thought I would just talk at you. I got my master's degree in biology in, I think, 1998. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the actual dates, and I didn't want to go and find my degree and look at it. It wasn't impossible, and I never felt like I was targeted because I was a woman, but I was in a life situation that women find themselves in, and I did feel targeted for being a single mother. The title of my thesis was The Partitioning of Benzoapyrene in the Pregnant Laboratory Mouse. The way I came about doing that research is very complicated. I got my undergraduate degree in biology education, and I quickly found that the public schools were no place for me. I'm not a very good classroom disciplinarian. I'm actually a very good teacher. In the public schools, you don't just teach, you also have to control 30 children, and I am not very good at that. I actually worked in a plastic factory for a while, and the day I got accepted into graduate school, I quit my job at the plastic factory. And shortly after that, I got pregnant with my daughter. So I went through graduate school, first pregnant and then as a mother of an infant, and that gave me some unusual challenges. Being pregnant was my choice, but a lot of the men who were going through graduate school with me had young children. They just had the luxury of having a wife. Even when I was married, and I was married early on in graduate school, I didn't have the luxury of having a wife. And I don't think the men that I was going to school with understood what an advantage that gave them, because a wife is just really awesome. She does so much for you. I would love to have a wife. But that's not legal in Kansas. The first thing you have to do in graduate school is to decide who your mentor is going to be. And I picked out this lady I wanted to be my mentor. And I thought I had to come to her with a complete idea of research. And I put together this idea, which turns out in retrospect to be a horrible, horrible idea. I don't even remember all of the particulars, but it had to do with goldfish. She was an ecologist, and she was a truly wonderful person, and I wish that I had worked under her. But she said, you know, this is really a toxicological kind of a study, and I think you should go across the hall and talk to this other guy. So this other guy, and his name was, actually, I don't think I'll say his name, and he got me started with some research, and I was working originally with fathead minnows and doing some toxicology research with fathead minnows. My mentor at the time was really interested in atrazine, which is a herbicide, and chlorinated pesticides and how they interacted with each other. And I started out doing this research, but there were key facts that nobody really let me in on. And I had a really hard time with the fathead minnow study because I didn't know how to take care of the fathead minnows. And honestly, we didn't have the facilities to do a good job of that. So when the fathead minnow research didn't work out, I got set up with some research sort of along the same lines with Daphnia, but they're a tiny little invertebrate that lives in fresh water. And I'm still partial to Daphnia. I love them. I love the name, and I love the way they look. They've got these arm-like things that they swim around with. They're awesome little critters. The research, for one reason or another, didn't work out. It's hard to explain exactly what was going wrong with it, but I think there was an interaction between the chemicals and the glassware. Anyway, my numbers weren't coming up right, and it was a lot of work, but my heart wasn't in it. I really wanted to do research along the lines of birth defects research. I was really interested in the effects of pesticides on pregnant mothers. So after like 2 years, I completely tossed aside all my research, and I started completely over with this new research. And I didn't have a mentor that was doing that kind of research in the lab. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to see if the body weight of the parent mouse, the body weight of the mother going into pregnancy, had any impact on how pesticides, especially the ones that really like to hang out in fat tissue, get to the fetus. I still think this is a really interesting question, but we didn't have the facilities for that. So I did a related study, and I investigated the way this carcinogen and its metabolites move through the placenta and mice. So I know way more about the mouse uterus than your average human being, and I've dissected hundreds and hundreds of mice. But it was an interesting time. I learned a lot. I grew as a person. It was very, very challenging. Science is a very intellectually rigorous activity. And the doing of science, the actual performing of science, is fraught with problems. One lady I worked with, I don't even remember her name, but I worked with her in the lab for a while. She once said to me, if it went right the first time, they wouldn't call it research. They just call it search. I mean, for any paper that ever gets published, any thesis that ever gets presented, there were 10, 15, 20, 100 things that went wrong. Papers that didn't get written, research that didn't get done, projects that went completely awry. Research is not the straightforward marching along toward progress. Research is this branching out, trial and error, investigation, and dead ends, and blind alleys, and left turns, and curveballs, and you never know what's going to happen, and you would think it's exciting, and it would be terribly exciting if it wasn't so damned frustrating. It's terribly frustrating, and it's absolutely worthwhile. And even though I'm not using my master's degree financially today, that degree taught me that my greatest asset is my stubbornness, my ability to keep going forward even when it's really, really difficult. And I think whether you're in science or retail or education or anything, the ability to keep moving forward even when it looks like it might not work out, and the ability to completely change tracks and go in a different direction when it looks like that's what's necessary, that is really important for anybody. And I am glad that I did that. One last thing before I let you go. I've been meaning to show you this forever. Jasmine gave me this for Christmas. It is a DFTBA, and it's made out of horseshoes. She made this in welding class. My name is Marilyn. This is Two Awesome Women, and I think you're awesome. Bye-bye.